What's up, everybody? It's Jared with Capture the Magic, and in today's video, we're going to talk about some things that I think Disney should bring back to the theme parks. And I'm not the only one, as I found a really good article here from Disney Tourist Blog, which, as I've talked about before, I think Tom Bricker, who is I think he owns this site, he writes for the site. He actually does a very good job of being pretty neutral when it comes to like Disney and Universal, to even being critical of Disney and having fair criticisms and really, things that he would do differently. So I've enjoyed a lot of his content. And this article came across, and I thought it was a pretty good one. It said, big little things Disney World needs to bring back. Now, I have some other things I'm going to add to this, but I think this is a pretty good list of things that he has here. So I figure we're going to go through this, get some thoughts on it, and elaborate, and hoping maybe somebody at Disney sees this or hears this and brings some of these things back, because I do think it would help the parks out by bringing many, if not all, of these things back into the theme parks. So it goes on to say here, in response to our series of posts that Walt Disney World is worried about its high prices, we received hundreds of reader comments. Unsurprisingly, many focused on Disney World's pricing out the middle class. Just as many expressed frustration about the company raising prices while making cuts on basically what you get for what you're paying for, these fans didn't necessarily mind paying more so long as they were getting value for their money. I think that really is, in a nutshell, the things that going on with Disney, people complaining, is I don't think anybody's ever argued it was ever cheap or considered cheap to go to Disney World. But it was also what you got with your money, what you paid for. You had value in that. And while prices have been going up, what you've been getting for what you're paying for has been going down at the same rate. And I think this is a lot of the frustration people have, is if you are going to pay this money, you expect a certain level of service and value you're getting, and that has been diminishing over time. So I'd say that would be number one, I suppose, would be just simply bring back the value of what you're paying for on a Disney vacation. I think ultimately that would be the best thing they could do. Now, a lot of things go into that, but I think that would be probably the number one thing overall, is what I would say. Incremental improvements have helped, as have fairly major moves of late, most notably the news that both Typhoon Lagoon and Blizzard Beach will open this summer, and the return of free airport luggage as a pilot program. These are happening for the first time since the closure back in March 2020, proving that even over 5 years later, pretty much anything is possible. That'll be doubly true as Epic Universe opens and Disney finds itself needing to be more competitive. There's still stuff to fix, and this list covers little but big ways to accomplish that. What we're meaning by big little things is to fix the very minor perks or offerings that often go unnoticed or are overlooked by themselves, but make a major or meaningful difference in aggregate. But they do matter because it all adds up. Frankly, this is what Walt Disney World is all about. That's probably a pretty good way to put that, in terms of it's not one singular thing. It's a bunch of things grouped together that kind of create the value. And I think that's a lot of the argument of things that have been, stripped away. It's not just the little details in themed design or placemaking. It's also that attention to detail in the guest experience, going above and beyond in ways big and small. Enhancements guests may not notice in isolation, or mostly wouldn't mourn if missing, but that collectively make Walt Disney World feel like a well-oiled machine and a world-class vacation destination where every guest is a VIP, giving guests things they never knew they needed. Very well put. And we've heard, former Imagineers even talk about this, of doing things that people aren't necessarily asking for in the positive, not taking things away, that ultimately, add up to the experience that you have and not being just a singular thing. Hence, big little things. That's why you won't find Disney's Magical Express, free Fast Pass, or extra magic hours on this list, or even complaints about shorter park hours or missing nighttime spectaculars or subpar maintenance and ride downtime. Those are all big things about which we would still hear regular complaints and are very noticeable cuts or issues. That's stuff everyone is talking about, and for good reason, as it's either greatly missed or core competencies. I'll just go ahead and say right now, they need to bring that back. Disney's Magical Express should have never get taken away. That should come back. Now, free Fast Passes are never going to happen. Obviously, that would be a great thing to bring back for the guest experience. It is not going to happen. Disney has, at this point, made well over $1 billion since implementing what was Genie Plus and now Lightning Lane, Multi-Pass, Single Pass, and the Premier Pass. So that one, outside of some insane thing happening or a new CEO coming in and deciding to really do this, that one's not going to happen. So I wouldn't even remotely anticipate. You can complain about it, but it's just not going to happen. Extra magic hours, yeah, that there should be a lot more of those. And the park hours should be longer. I completely agree. Resort delivery. This one I completely agree on. It boggles my mind that this has not returned. Back in my day, which was 2019, Walt Disney World would magically move merchandise you bought in the theme parks to your resort for pickup so you didn't have to carry souvenirs and stuff around all day. This free service was a nice on-site perk and a great way to not need a pack mule by the end of the day. This perk was mutually advantageous. Walt Disney World's calculation was that guests would spend more money on merchandise in the parks if they didn't have to carry around their purchase all day long. One would assume, at least. And they were correct. I'm not even a big merchandise person, and I've lost count of how many times we've opted against buying something in the last few years because we didn't want to lug it around all day. We'll just grab it at the end of the night at the Emporium. Famous last words that almost never come true. I understand why Walt Disney World didn't feel the need to bring this back in late 2021, which pretty much everything else was going back to normal, as supply chain disruptions resulted in empty shelves and merchandise shortages, so there was really no incentive to offer the perk the limited selection of items was selling out regardless. But things have changed dramatically since then, and merchandise sales have slowed considerably. It's time to bring back resort delivery to incentivize souvenir sales and improve guest satisfaction, even though it's pitched as a perk. I strongly suspect Walt Disney World is leaving money on the table by not offering resort delivery. They are undoubtedly leaving money on the table. And this one absolutely boggles my mind, considering how much Disney wants to squeeze every dollar they can out of a guest coming through the parks. And just like the situation he said, we've been in the situation, I've been around multiple people that have been in this same spot where they're in the stores looking around at the beginning of the day and they go, I don't want to carry this around all day. I'll get it later. But when you're talking about retail, it's a very known thing. You don't want to basically give people reasons not to buy things. A lot of times things are impulse purchases. And the longer someone thinks about something, more than likely they're not going to buy it, or they get busy and forget about it. So when you're saying, I'll get it later, you're doing stuff in the parks, the end of the day, you're going to leave, and you're like, I just want to go back to my room and relax, or I want to go home and relax. The last thing you want to do is go back into a store, fight with crowds, and go to buy something. Or you've just decided throughout the day, I really didn't need that anyways, like whatever, I'm going to go on. I don't even know if they can put a dollar value on how much they've lost in terms of people not purchasing things for that exact reason right there. And it's a nice perk. If you do buy it, you take it back to the resort hotel. That's also a nice perk of getting people to book hotel stays with you, because if you do want to buy stuff, they'll just take it back to your room. It was, and whatever they were paying for labor to do this, I would imagine they would make much more in retail sales to make up that difference. This one absolutely should come back. I have no clue as to, as money hungry as Disney is, why they have not brought this back. But that one I think would be an absolute no-brainer to bring back. It says Pandora Rangers. Since its opening, Pandora World of Avatar and Animal Kingdom has been home to some of Walt Disney World's weirdest entertainment. After testing a wide variety of atmospheric acts that fell flat with guests, Disney found the perfect solution with the Pandora Rangers. In particular, when the Pandora utility suit walk-around character made its debut in the land, this is like military AMP suit counterpart in front of Pongu Pongu, but not evil. Instead, the friendly pilot of this engages in cheesy and fun banter with guests, explaining what he's learned on Pandora. Perhaps I'm a sucker for mechs. I am a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, as am I. It's a great game franchise. But I always loved the Pandora utility suit and thought it added a lot to the land. Crowds always gathered to see the towering performer, which is quite the sight to behold, and this specifically makes this list because of all its beauty and popularity. Pandora can feel, paradoxically, dead during the middle of the day. That's a valid point. Even as both rides post hour-plus waits and Satuli Canteen is busy, the land itself is quiet and uncrowded because everyone is in line or eating. Bringing back the Pandora Rangers would help give the land more of a lived-in quality and help guests appreciate the beauty of the land itself and that they might otherwise overlook while racing around doing the rides and eating the food. Animal Kingdom also just flat-out needs more to keep guests occupied, especially as attractions close and construction walls go up. Completely agree. And also they used to have like a drumming thing you could do in there. Like in general, more Streetmosphere is something that the parks desperately need. I think it adds a very unique atmosphere to the parks when you actually have streetmosphere going on, and that has been stripped out of the parks as the years have gone by. And really in these areas, it's just rides and food and really nothing else in between. And they have brought some of that back this summer with the Cool Kids Summer stuff, with more meet and greets, with more stuff for kids, which I think that stuff should just be going on all the time. I don't think it should just be a special thing they're doing this summer as they're trying to, increase their offerings as they're competing with Universal and Epic Universe a bit more, trying to entice people to come over. I think these should just be things that are part of the daily park experience that would help add value to what people are getting for going to Disney World. And having more characters like this, more things to do that kind of tell stories of Pandora, I think would go a long ways, as would all the other lands. Galaxy's Edge, Toy Story Land, all these could have more things like this in those lands. And along those lines as well, Citizens. It seemed like it was inevitable given the cuts over the years, but losing the Citizens of Hollywood at Disney's Hollywood Studios and Citizens of Main Street at Magic Kingdom is such a colossal blow now that we've felt their absence for so long. Although technically different, I'd also add the Main Street Trolley Show to this. In both parks, these citizens are roaming streetmosphere performers who inhabit the entrance area boulevards, giving these streets a sense of life. Main Street in particular felt like a proper land of Magic Kingdom thanks to this lived-in quality. Now it's just a thoroughfare most guests rush through on their way to the rides. It's also a pleasure to stumble upon one of the characters or their random shows, and the citizens' ability to single out specific guests and make them feel special or like a star was something special. This is the type of thing that doesn't show up on guest satisfaction surveys and is an easy cut for management obsessed with spreadsheets or whatever, but it makes a world of difference for the people impacted. Those personal connections and little moments are a huge deal. He hits it on the head there, and I think Disney, along with many other companies, are basically doing things by spreadsheets, calculating everything to a cost and an ROI. And they look at certain things like Streetmosphere. Well, we're not making any money off of this, so we just cut it, and then we've increased our profits. And they do this, go down the list and how many things have been cut over the years because it costs money, and they don't deem it's going to make a difference in how much they're making. And so they're just looking at profit and loss. But what they're losing in just doing spreadsheet management is the little things, like this entire article is about, that made Disney unique. Was all these little things grouped together that you would call the Disney magic or the Disney difference that have been stripped out. And the same token, by just adding back the citizens of Main Street only, it's not going to make that big of a difference. But when you have all these little things combined, these are things that don't show up in spreadsheets. These are things that people may remember that they really can't put a number to, and they're just being cut out. And this is why I've said all along, I call it the Moneyball effect of everything having to be from analytics perspective and not just having an understanding of its, you can obviously analytics are going to play a part of this. I'm not saying they won't, but just going off analytics and spreadsheets alone, you do lose things that just can't be tracked by those methods. And I think this is one of them. Epcot Festival Seminars. I've been on this drum for a while now. Epcot's festivals have been coasting for the past 5 years. They've rested on the laurels of long-standing reputations while being scaled back. In particular, Food and Wine is the weakest event of the year at Epcot. Absolutely agree. It's popular at this point due to the hype machine and inertia, which isn't to say there aren't fantastic dishes, but it's been a shadow of its former self. This is partly understandable as the event has become a victim of its own popularity with longer lines and higher demand necessitating simpler dishes that will appeal to more palates. An even bigger reason why it's the worst event of the year at Epcot is because it no longer offers something extra. This was supposed to be fixed with the debut of Communicore Hall, which would have once again offer a proper festival center. Unfortunately, it's undersized and underwhelming. If you look at the concept art, what they're going to do, they could have done them all in there, but yeah, that building now, there's no way they could hold any sort of seminars in that building. Not even capable of hosting as many offerings as the repurposed Wonders of Life Pavilion that preceded it. It's unfortunate. By losing the seminars and demonstrations, celebrity chef appearances, special meals, merchandise, and book signings, culinary panels, and other low-cost or free events, Food and Wine has gone from the largest scale event of the year at Epcot to the smallest. Once again, Walt Disney World is leaving a ton of money on the table by not doing them, and if there's anything we know about the company, it's that they're big fans of money. They definitely seem to be. Perhaps it's time to bring back the Wonders of Life as a proper festival center and just have Communicore Hall be a glorified food booth and seating area. Again, I agree. Those festivals were always, those seminars were always kind of nice to do. First off, you got out of the heat and it was, you could go learn something. You go learn something about wine or drinks or how to cook. Like it was some unique thing that they had. And now when you look at Food and Wine, it's the same thing as you look at Festival of the Arts, or you look at Flower and Garden. They have the base, the food booths, but that's really it. The other festivals have other things on top of them for the most part. This one here has just been really pared back, and I agree. It's just been coasting on its laurels for a very long time now, and I think that it would do that festival a lot of good to bring these back, but I don't think that they're going to bring it back unless they feel they need to. I don't know. I did hear rumors that they were looking around the Wonders of Life Pavilion, but they do that from time to time. They'll go over there and look through things, and people get hope that they're going to do something with that area, and nothing ever happens. Maybe something will happen, but as of right now, I wouldn't bet on it. It says dessert parties. Again, not everyone has problems with the guest experience that revolve around price increases. The reader responses to our series about Walt Disney World pricing out the middle class reflected this. Not only that, but it's possible to take issue with paying more while getting the same or less, but also wanting certain upcharge opportunities that offer something for the extra money to return. The two notions are not in conflict. It's possible to hold both. I mean, I would honestly say if you're getting more for what you're paying at a base level, you'd probably feel a lot better or more enticed to do extra things. And I think some people, when you're already feeling nickeled and dined and not getting what you used to get in return, it doesn't really make you want to spend more money to do extra things. So I think some of it could be consumer sentiment, how they feel about certain things as well. But I do agree with that. There's actually a lot in the Enchanting Extras collection and associated add-ons that gives Walt Disney World a tremendous amount of repeatability for regulars. Things like behind the scenes or VIP tours, dining or dessert parties, early or late park access, and much more. We were never particularly keen on the dessert parties and upcharges in other parks, but completely understand why others found them to be special. As parents to a daughter who is becoming increasingly interested in all things Arendelle, I'd imagine we'd soon love the Frozen Ever After dessert party. Even if it were expensive, this is the kind of enchantment that can make for a magical and memorable splurge. I feel his pain as our daughter is now out of the Frozen phase, but going through that Frozen phase, you hear that song and watch that movie a lot. I'm glad in many ways. It's, when your kids get older, like I miss her being a little girl in many levels, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad some of these things, like constantly watching Frozen or constantly hearing, I can't remember the name of the song now, but the song with Frozen on repeat for my mental health. It's probably in a better place there. But yeah, I would agree. What he's saying there, I agree. I think some of the dessert parties can be really, fun things. We've done a couple of them. And, for the most part, they haven't been egregious in their pricing on certain ones you can do. But I think more of those, or maybe even just more lower entry ones that just have something with them, they're not insanely priced, I think would do very well to have more of those. Unused counter service venues. Another relatively niche one, given that some of these restaurants were only open a few weeks per year, but Tomorrowland Terrace, Aunt Polly's, and Tortuga Tavern being closed most of the time has exasperated counter service crowds. It also made a weak food scene even worse. Magic Kingdom needs more variety on the counter service front and also more capacity. The two things would help improve the guest experience, and lower traffic locations like Tortuga Tavern and Tomorrowland Terrace could have the latitude to serve inventive and fun food while also helping relieve the pressure while also improving the park's cuisine. I don't know if I agree. I don't know if I agree with the sentiment that Magic Kingdom has a capacity problem, because you look at the wait times. I mean, they have a lot of attractions in Magic Kingdom. The wait times typically aren't that bad. Obviously increasing the footprint of the park I don't think is a bad idea, but I just always kind of push back against the rhetoric that it's this inherent need as of right now. I mean, it is the most visited theme park in the world, but if you look at the wait times, they're not awful in terms of an average on a day-to-day basis. Jedi Training Academy. This one is about the same level as you're delivering your purchases in the park back to your hotel room. I do not understand why this one has not come back. It says even pre-closure, it seemed like there was some desire within Walt Disney World to consolidate Star Wars offerings in Galaxy's Edge and minimize the off-planet options. Never quite understood this, especially with Imagineering and the Lucasfilm Story Group being so steadfast about the rules and character integrity. He says another rant for another day. We may be on the same page for that because I'm not a fan of Galaxy's Edge. We'll just put it that way. I think it's a big swing and a miss, meaning that the land was limited in who and what it could showcase. Essentially, just sequel trilogy characters, which most people, in general of Star Wars, I don't think the majority of the fan base are sequel trilogy fans solely. I think prequel and original trilogy being included in a Star Wars land is kind of a no-brainer. In any case, it's absolutely crazy to me that the Jedi Training Academy has not returned. The Trials of the Temple interactive stage show was absolutely adored by guests and was a magical moment for so many kids and their families who had the chance to participate. It was the kind of trip-defining experience for a subset of guests that easily justified its existence. One of those things that if you had the fortune to do, you knew just how special it was. Even as someone who never got to experience it firsthand or through the eyes of my child, it was easy for me to see that Jedi Training Academy was something special. One of those little ways that Walt Disney World captured lightning in a bottle and turned a simple thing into a core memory. Stuff like this that has a propensity to forge a new generation of fans is what should actually be sacred for Walt Disney World. While we're at it, bring back the paintbrush scavenger hunt on Tom Sawyer Island for one last hurrah before they pave paradise and put up a parking lot or off-road racetrack for cars. Yeah, Jedi Training Academy not being there, I don't understand it. If anything, put it into Galaxy's Edge. I just don't get... It was one of the things that you actually had Darth Vader featured. And all the kids loved it. I mean, I would love it. Our son would like to do this. Our daughter would like to do this. I don't understand why it went away and why they won't bring it back. I think it's a very simple thing you could do that I agree with everything he has to say about it. Toppings bars. Absolutely. You might be thinking at this point that Magic Kingdom counter service dining is a sore subject for me. Gee, I don't know why you draw that conclusion. This is only the third entry on the list that pertains to the subject. I could easily rant for a few thousand more words about the sorry state of the flagship Castle Park's food service scene. Toppings bars made a standard theme park fare like dry burgers palatable. It hasn't helped that Walt Disney World has cut corners and switched to meat suppliers that sell whatever the grade is right above dog food.
I also like to live dangerously.
He is not pulling punches. I like it. This is a point we've made before, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Hopefully the meat supplier follows my lead. Wow. On the plus side, at least the new menu at Pecos Bills is a dramatic improvement from the embarrassingly bad food being served there before, but it'd be even better with customizable toppings. I'm skeptical that this even saving Walt Disney World all that much money. Sure, it reduces guest abuse of the toppings bar, but the current approach is much more labor intensive, and labor isn't cheap anymore. Them taking away the toppings bar, that was one of the main benefits at eating at Pecos Bills, is because you could get a meal, and then you could just add all the stuff you wanted into it, make it into a salad. You had extra things. It gave you customizable things to do, and basically you got more value for your food that you're already paying, which may be why Disney got rid of it. It needs to come back. I think it was a nice perk to have it. Do I think it will come back? No. I don't think Disney breaks things down that much. I think they just look at the sheer cost of those things and just figured you can still get a lot of those by asking for it, but instead of just putting it out, having the food waste there, they assume that they're just going to save money by not having as much of it out there. But I do think it was a nice perk for those that ate at Pecos Bills. And I think more places should have it. It's a nice value to have it. And again, unless you customize, get fajitas or something, you can add more things to it without having to go up and ask for sour cream or more, lettuce, whatever it is. You could just do it on your own. Cinderella's Castle Dreamlights. My wife has been asking for this for years. I'd argue that this is not a big little thing. It did and would cause fans to book trips, but I think Walt Disney World might disagree. Regardless, I'll never pass up the opportunity to sing the praises of the Cinderella Castle Dreamlights. Those icicle lights were one of our favorite things about Christmas at Walt Disney World for the decade plus. We spent many a late night on Main Street simply gazing down at those lights, savoring the scene. I lost count of how many times we did this over the years, probably over 100. For those who have never had a chance to see the Cinderella Castle Dreamlights, they are nothing short of spectacular. Some of you cynics might think such a physical light display is quaint or antiquated, surpassed by the ease and flexibility of projections. That those of us who miss the dream lights are simply clouded by nostalgia and sentimentality, ignoring the daytime visual blight and installation and simplicity of the physical icicle lights. I wholeheartedly disagree. I agree with him. No projections can match the more than 200,000 tiny white lights that illuminate Cinderella's castle and transform it into a veritable ice palace. The dream lights would stop you in your tracks, with the physical display being an absolute jaw-dropper. Words, photos, and video absolutely cannot do it justice. I'm not normally one of the flowery language in Disney's press releases, but even the company's marketing teams undersold the Cinderella Castle dream lights. Whatever praise you've heard about the dream lights, it's true, all of it. I actually agree with that. Mostly, my wife really would like this to come back, but it did add an extra element to it. It's really cool to see. And it just kind of shows you too, like it's like, look at movies and how much CGI are in movies now. You can always see it, and it kind of just, it's very rare anyways that you can't notice CGI. And when you notice things are like not CGI'd and done physically, it just has a different feel to it. It's the same thing with the lights here. Like the projections are easier. They don't have to pay people to get up there and put those lights on, but it's just a different feel. And it's a much, I just feel like it's a much more authentic Christmas feel, add an element to the park that people would stop to check out. And it's definitely been missing from Christmas ever since they've gone away from it. Now, do I think they'll bring it back? I don't. Because I think they just look at the labor and they figure, who cares? Nobody's doing this. Just put projections on the castle. Nobody cares. And again, these are the little things like this that all add up to changing the overall value and what you feel you're getting out of a trip. And not a single one of these things on its own are going to like really, move the needle necessarily, I suppose you could say, but all together, these things all added up become a major thing that I think a lot of people would like to see come back. Says the kiss goodnight. I'm a firm believer that first and final impressions matter a lot for Walt Disney World, which is why I'm such a fan of the improved arrival experience and streamlining of bag check with those Evolve whole body scanners. It's a night-day difference for the old process or current one at Disneyland. So seriously, it is. We complain about the bad, but it's also important to praise the good. Agreed. I actually think the new, the way they do the security now is much better. Used to, they had to do a bag check and they would dig through everyone's bags, and getting into the parks was a nightmare. So it is much more efficient and quicker now than it used to be for sure. While this isn't as impactful for as many guests, the Kiss Goodnight is one of those big little things that left such undeniable impression on the guest who saw it that it could help them turn into lifelong fans. Once again, words, photos, or even video cannot do it justice. We nevertheless tried. The Kiss Goodnight was one of those, if you know, magical moments. It was an emotional powerhouse for many people. It's the culmination of a fun-filled visit to Magic Kingdom. During the moment of pause, you let your guard down, and Disney's careful tugging at your heartstrings gets you as you're already simultaneously drained and satisfied at the end of a long day in the park. This is Walt Disney World at its best, and the kind of big little magical moment that the company should recognize is much more important than it might seem, especially if there's no intention of bringing back Disney's Magical Express, free Fast Pass, extra magic hours, etc. I think he's got a pretty good list there. Now, I would say bringing back the Magical Express it might be a big thing, as he said, but I think undoubtedly was such a short-sighted move to get rid of that, especially considering how much Disney now is talking about the importance of the Disney bubble. And the Magical Express was literally the first step into the Disney bubble that reinforced the entire thing. Like, they picked you up from the airport, they took you to the resort, they took you back to the airport. Like, you never had to worry about a car or anything else. And you really can't put a price tag on how much of a relaxing thing that created an atmosphere. Like, we used it. We lived in Missouri. We used it all the time. And you didn't have to worry. You landed, the minute you landed at MCO, it was kind of like your vacation started. You just went down to the Disney part of the airport and you just already were kind of on vacation. And now, obviously we live in Florida now, but now you fly in, you got to figure out how to get to the resort. It's a lot more stress. And I think these are things that, again, don't show up on a spreadsheet. You take that, and like I said, fast passes are not going to come back. That's a wish list thing. They should, I think, but they're not going to. But a lot of things on this list, I think the one that makes the most sense in terms of everybody be happy, resort delivery. I don't understand why that one has not come back. But again, this list of things, it's a lot of little things that by themselves, sure, they don't make a big difference. But all together, these are things that help people, feel like they're getting more value for what they're paying. And Disney, as they've raised prices in the parks, they've cut back on a lot of these things. And then it's kind of like this, the boiling frog. It's not all at once. If you were to say 5 years ago that was going to cost you $200 on a busy day at Magic Kingdom, that didn't include fast passes, you had to pay extra for those, you probably would have looked at people and said, you're crazy. That's insane. I'm not paying that. But it's just this slow, slowly upticking the prices, slowly pulling things away or not bringing them back after they closed down for COVID. And now you're looking back to a situation where just 5 years ago, all the things that were included in a Disney World vacation, a lot of them are nowhere to be found. And it's more expensive to go. And these are the things that people have been complaining about when they talk about pricing out the middle class. It's not only just the sheer pricing, it's just everything that goes into the trip is completely changed. And you just feel more nickeled and dimed as everything has gone along. And not to mention the complicated nature of a Disney vacation. They didn't add that on the list, but I think having a more simplified vacation process would go a long ways with people feeling relaxed and wanting to return. So vacations are, and I think Braden from Mickey View said it best, Disney sells memories. And a lot of these things are memory maker type of things. Jedi Academy, Streetmosphere characters, all these interactive elements. Like they have brought back this stuff, a lot of this stuff for kids this summer, but these should be things that are part of the parks on a daily basis, 365 days out of the year, because it helps people go on these vacations and create memories. And that is essentially what Disney is the business of doing. And I think they've lost sight of that just chasing profits, as the parks are the biggest driver of revenue for the entire company. And as they've struggled on the movie side and the Disney Plus side, I guess you could say at the very least it's been up and down. They look to get as much money as they can out of the parks. Now, they have the demand to do it, but I do think it's a very short-sighted move, because now you have a lot more competition on the theme park side with what Universal's doing, and you're going to be much more susceptible to the competition as you've made a lot of these major changes in the parks. Now, I still think Universal would be a big competitor to Disney, even if they kept all the things in the parks. They didn't have these wild price increases and things like that. But you wouldn't be giving Universal as much room to grow, to eat up market share, if you were still having all the things that you used to have as part of a trip included. You wouldn't give the competition as much of a chance to win people over if they didn't feel the need to go to other places. Now, they likely still would go, but they probably would still have, a sentimental value or want to come back to Disney. But when Disney has cut all these things out and then not bringing any of it back and then charging more, it just makes people feel like, well, and I think rightfully so, they just want to make more money. And people don't, obviously people have already known Disney wants to make money, but it wasn't so obvious in the past, I don't think. And now it's so obvious that it's just sheerly about getting as much money as they can out of guests in the park. It doesn't make you feel great about wanting to go back and do that again. And I think that's a lot of the issue that has been going on at Disney World. So I think this is a very good list. I think they should bring all these things back and more. And I think it would go a long ways into helping, Disney's brand damage that they've done, or how people feel about the brand in general, improve. Now, I don't think they're going to lower prices. I would say lower prices, but they're not going to do that. They do have deals going on this summer, and they're probably going to run discounts for the next few years, especially as they, are building all the things they're building in the parks now. But I think this list here would be a very good place to start. Bring these things back. Bring these little things back that all culminate in a much bigger impact when they're combined all together. And I think it would go a long ways to help Disney, in the guest experience. But I'm not going to hold my breath they're going to do it. I think they'll do some of it perhaps. But we've already seen them bring back some of these things, at least for a limited time. We'll see if they end up doing any of that, but I thought this was a very good article. I think Tom Bricker's been very fair on his coverage of Disney World and Universal Studios, and, even in here talking about the criticisms that he has. I think it's pretty fair. But either way, that's going to be it, though, for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do all this coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what little things do you think that Disney World needs to bring back to the parks? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.